You got one of those fancy snowballs. Now, I think, man, it's coming through a little bit. You're fine. Again, there's a little bit of feedback. We'll try it out. We'll see how it goes. Let me get you turned up here, and we'll get you switched over. This is Tech-splaining the interwebs. This is how we sound engineer on the fly.
Okay.
1 second. Here we go. All right. Here's Joe. Hey, you're on camera. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So Joe, you, as I was saying earlier, are a YouTuber as well as a real lawyer. That's your behind you there. Is that your logo for your office?
Yeah, that's my logo for my office, Nick. Yep.
Gotcha.
JPL, Joe Pometto Law.
Awesome. Yeah. So what are we talking about today, man?
What do you want to talk about? So you kind of nailed it talking about me earlier. I got 2 channels. I got one, it's Common Sense Academy. It focuses on sovereign citizens and First Amendment auditors. I don't know if you guys ever talk about that. But I'm starting a new channel, Joe the Lawyer, where I want to talk about more general legal topics, sort of like what you do. I've been watching your show the last few nights. You know, you touch on a lot of different stuff.
Oh, yeah. I touch everything except kids.
Good to hear.
No, it's a weird place, this YouTube law thing.
Sure.
It's fun because you get to constantly be compared to people that you despise, and because I don't know about you, I hate pretty much every lawyer I've ever met.
I hate a lot of them. Absolutely.
Well, good. This will be great.
Yeah.
So why don't we start? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your practice, how long you've been practicing law, what you focus on, that type of stuff.
Sure. So I heard you say 38. I'm 37. After high school, I went into the Air Force. So I was in the Air Force for 4 years, and then I got out, went to undergrad law school, and I graduated 2013. So I've been practicing for about 6 years. You may have been an attorney longer, Nick. I don't know.
No, actually, I'm slightly younger attorney-wise than you.
Okay.
I'm in my 5th year of practice. So
okay,
we were both late starters. What were you? What were you doing before?
I was in the military 4 years. I was in the Air Force.
Sure.
I worked on jets. Everybody asked me if I fly. I go, I didn't fly. And then I went to school, so I was just basically a student full time. I worked in the restaurant business while I was putting myself through school, and graduated. I think I was 31. I'm 37 now, so I was 31. And I've been practicing for about 6 years, and so just really those 4 years of Air Force. My practice now is mainly criminal defense. I do some personal injury. I do, general civil litigation. I've been getting into family law, which is an absolute nightmare.
Oh, God. Peace be upon you. You're done.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. But there's a lot of it, and there's money there, so I've kind of been getting into it. But mostly I do criminal defense.
Okay. Personally, I like criminal defense the most of any practice area I messed with. Is that the same for you, or did you just kind of end up there? How's that work out?
Well, in law school, I focused on criminal. Like I interned at the public defenders. I'm in Pittsburgh. I see you're in Minnesota, right?
Yeah. I'm in literal coitus right now, the frozen hell.
Yeah, we haven't had much snow. But yeah, in law school, I worked for the public defender's office and the Office of Conflict Counsel. So I did a lot of criminal defense in law school, and I liked it. I knew I wanted to be in court, so that's kind of why I went that path initially.
Sure.
Out of law school, I worked for 2 civil litigation firms because that's where I was able to find jobs. And when I went on my own, I was going to do civil litigation. and I started working with another attorney who did criminal, and he just started giving it to me, and it just kind of took off, like it snowballed. And I enjoy it, and it turned out too that I like it better than pretty much any other practice area. So that's my focus now.
Very, very cool. So let's see. I'm trying to remember how I do interviews. Just whenever I lose my way, I just go, okay, remember you're bad at this. And everything will be fine. Okay, so you do criminal law, you've done civil litigation, you have stumbled into family law, which I personally would recommend anybody who does to get the hell out as fast as possible. I never wanted to do any family law, and the stuff I've done has always been for family or friend. And
right.
I just hate it. I hate it. I would rather deal with criminals than people going through divorce or custody stuff, because they're way worse than murderers.
They are a bigger pain in the ass to work with.
Yes.
Like I can talk to my criminal clients and they'll be like, okay, let's put a plan together. Let's strategize, da 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 da. Like, and they'll listen to me. Like these family law clients don't listen to me, and nothing makes sense. I'm like, okay.
No, it's because they're stuck with so much anger, right? Mm-hmm. And they're the most important. That's the thing I have to remember with family law. It's like, okay, the most important things in these people's lives are falling apart right now. That's why they suck. That's why they suck.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I had a hearing today, and we got zero result from it.
Sure.
And I kind of had a feeling it was going to be that way. And there was just a bunch of arguing, and the client spent a bunch of money, and I felt bad, but as I was upfront about it, I let her know, I let them know it was going to be an uphill battle, and we went in there, and that seems like 75% of the time in family law, I'm just fighting because they want me to fight. Yep. And I tell them, I'll be like, look, we're not necessarily going to get a result here. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like you want to grab them and say, you can't afford this fight, save it for the other one.
Right.
Is the automatic, is it that important? No, it's not.
Yeah.
So I guess going from there, what got you into YouTube? Now, you were talking about on your Common Sense Academy channel, it's pretty specialized that you, and I noticed a lot of sovereign citizen stuff on there.
Right.
So I guess talk to me about sovereign citizens and the Common Sense Academy and how this thing came about.
Sure. So I got, I'm a big fan of YouTube, as I imagine you are, Nick, and there were a lot of creators the last couple of years that I've been following and watching. And so I said, hey, I'm going to make my own channel. It doesn't take necessarily that much time. So I made the channel with the intention of doing more general legal type stuff, sort of in your vein. And I started out doing that. And I was taking feedback. You watch videos on how to increase your audience, how to make a good channel, etc. They said, well, take feedback from your viewers.
I haven't watched any of those. I legitimately don't. I don't.
You're probably better off. You're doing well.
I'm like, wait a minute. I started to once, and it was this thing. It's like how to grow your YouTube channel, and I clicked on the channel, and I'm like, this has 900 followers.
Yeah, you're right, and you're doing very well.
So I just resolved to be bad at it personally.
Okay,
but that's me. That's how I do things. And plus, if they told me all the right stuff to do, I would inherently do the wrong because I have problems with authority. So I wouldn't listen. But okay, so you're saying take feedback from the viewers, right?
Right. So
I believe that's probably good advice to an extent.
Yeah, and it kind of well, let me just tell you what happened. So I started my channel as a general law channel, and mostly I was just saying, well, I'm going to have this channel. I'm going to inform people about criminal defense, okay, and, you know, just see if it catches on, see if people like it. So I was making videos like that, letting friends, family, putting it on Facebook, and I had like, you know, I don't know, 100 subscribers maybe, and I would get like 30 hits a video, okay? And I wasn't doing much live. Well, you can't even do live at first. Anyway, I made a video. One of my comments was, hey, actually, I went live, and this one guy was like, what do you know about sovereign citizens? So
I know, I love them.
Yeah, I actually knew something because, as I told you, I worked in the public defender's office.
Oh, yeah.
So I used to see them come into courts. And only a couple of times, but every time they would bring them in, the sheriff's deputy and everybody in the courthouse would be like, oh, everybody start rolling their eyes. Oh, here they go. And they get up there and they start arguing with the judge. You know, I'd seen this 2 or 3 times. So I said, okay. And if you look at my channel, you go back to the old ones, I said, I'm going to make a video. I did like a 20-minute video just on the sovereign citizens, okay, and like their ideas and why it doesn't work. And so I make this 20-minute video, and I think what happened, because you can see the analytics, is someone dropped it on a Reddit thread.
Yeah.
Okay. And I got like 1,000 hits in a day. So I started to make more, and every video I made with sovereign citizens was just taken off, was just boom, boom, boom.
People can't get enough of them. They're too funny.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
It's like you're in a court demanding them to exercise their authority to let you go while you tell them you don't acknowledge their authority to hold you or let you go.
Right.
While you're in handcuffs.
While you're in handcuffs, exactly. Exactly.
You don't have the right to tell me I am free man. Sure you are, pal.
Right. It is a riot, and what people really like is when they're dealing with the police, you know, and the police don't take shit from them, and it's just like bing, bang, boom, and the broken windows, and I'm all in the world now, but that's how that channel turned into that.
Sure. Man, I love and hate those videos because I'm not going to speak for you, but as far as for me, my experiences in criminal defense with police are not always pleasant or magical. We'll say they're demystifying in many ways, and so like I watch the sovereign citizens guy, and I'm like, I want to be on your side, but just please stop being like this, because what this guy's doing to you, he's being a complete prick, and you don't deserve it, but you're making yourself deserve it really quickly.
Yes, and I feel the same way. I feel the same way as you do, Nick. And in my videos, I try to point out, and a lot of people seem to like this. Some of them just come because they just want to laugh at the sovereign citizens. Okay, but I try to point out. I say, look, they're on to something here. Or I'll say, yeah, they shouldn't consent to their vehicle being searched. They shouldn't consent to this. And I kind of try to analyze the situation, but also say, well, this is wrong legally, this is wrong legally, this is wrong legally, this isn't true, this amendment doesn't say that, and people seem to get a kick out of my analysis. Some people don't like it at all. Some would rather just watch the videos, and I say, you know, and they tell me to shut the F up. I mean, I got a guy who's like, shut that. He's like, he goes, your videos would be a lot better if you just shut the F up. And I got that comment the other day. I was like, this is the best comment that I've had yet. So, yeah, I try to break it down and analyze it. And I feel you. I'm like rooting for them at times, but also I'm like, dude, like you can't just, this isn't going to work, you know? So.
Right. So you're not a sovereign citizen, to be clear.
I am not a sovereign citizen. They're out there though.
It's hard to be a licensed attorney and be a sovereign citizen. Actually, funny story, maybe. You might appreciate it. My buddy really wants me to check out this like website and blog of a guy who is not a licensed attorney who helps people do all their legal documents and proceed pro se. And I'm like, he's like, oh man, you got to check him out. You should talk to this guy. I'm like, you realize that guy violates the law on a daily basis. And like, I legitimately can't endorse his activity because we have a licensing requirement specifically because we have no idea whether or not this guy knows what he's talking about. Now, in principle, I think the licensing requirement for lawyers is maybe a bit ridiculous. But at the same time, it is the system that we have. And so when you have someone working outside of it to give advice, but not legal advice, but it definitely is, like he helps people fill out forms. Like that is under several court decisions, that alone is legal advice. So you're doing this without a license, telling people that they don't need a lawyer. They just need you. Okay.
Yeah, and that's part of what I cover too, because a lot of these sovereign citizens, if people put this out there, they're doing it for money, right? They make these little booklets. You go on Amazon.com. It's called the Common Law Handbook. It's $5 a book. Okay, somebody's selling that, making money off it. The one video I did recently, the girl's literally reading from the book while the police are like, open your door, show us your ID. And she's reading from this book of fake law, and she paid money for it. Mm-hmm. And she's about to get the window in her car broken out because she's reading a fake law book. And I'm like, wow. And so, I kind of try to cover all aspects of it. And it just took off. So I started the other channel because I get so much traction with that stuff. I wanted to keep it on that channel, sort of specialized. And I want to do another channel where I can talk about more general legal stuff. So that's the Joe the Lawyer channel that I just started up.
Gotcha. So I have a humble request.
Sure.
We're still getting a lot of that feedback.
Okay.
It really detracts from the listening experience. Do you have a pair of headphones anywhere around?
I don't know if these work.
I don't know. Maybe.
Hang on a second. Let me see. Hey, can you hear me, Nick?
I can. You went digital for a second. But you actually froze. Okay, I think your computer's catching up from connecting the Bluetooth. But yeah, I don't hear me anymore, so that is a good solution if it works for you.
It works for me, yeah. I can hear you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so on the new channel, you want to cover kind of general legal topics. I've compiled a list of a couple things that I was thinking maybe we could talk about. I just want to get your opinions on it.
Sure.
Because it's a weird world out there. I've noticed there's so much legal news every day that you really can do. You can have infinite number of general law shows and not get enough. But I have to ask the most important question. Aside from me, because I know I'm the top of everybody's mind. Who's your favorite internet lawyer?
So I've only recently begun searching internet lawyers. I don't know who you know and who we know. One of the first people I found was Steve Leto. Have you seen Leto's Law?
He does a lot of lemon law stuff, right? And automobile law. I haven't watched a ton just because I'm not big into cars, but I found him when I was covering a case a while back. It was Domino's Pizza. This YouTube guy named Sam Crack, who restores cars, bought one of the old Domino's cars from salvage from an insurance company, and it was the ones that had the pizza in the side of the car, the pizza oven in the side of the car, so they could deliver a pizza that would be in the oven staying warm, and they'd pull it right out as they drove up, and so they deliver you this pizza with like melty cheese and everything.
Yeah.
So he finds this thing and he restores it, and then probably the franchise owner of the Domino's who actually salvaged the car to the insurance company realizes his mistake, and he sends a threatening letter to the YouTube guy and says, "You've got to return that car it's ours. You can't use it, or we'll sue you for trademark infringement. And it was this wild thing. And so, I was in researching that whole issue. I noticed that Leto was frequently cited by Jalopnik, which is a car, like a used car. I don't know how to describe it. Jalopnik's, it's a car website. It's about cars, buying used cars, restoring cars, and And so I found him there, but I don't watch a lot of his stuff. But he seems like a pretty decent dude. He's getting sued right now, right?
Yeah, actually, he talked about that. It seems like a pretty frivolous lawsuit, but he did. It's funny you say that. That was one episode. Yeah, I watched that one pretty recently. I don't watch all of his stuff, but I'll mix it in because I like to see, like you said, what the other internet lawyers are doing, etc. Yeah, he's getting sued. It seems really frivolous. Like this attorney's. Yeah, it seemed like total BS.
Like he's sued. He's being sued by someone who he represented someone against them, and they won, and he's being sued. It's like, no, you lost to him before. Don't do it again. But yeah,
absolutely.
So do you follow anybody else on the internet?
I don't really. I mean, I just recently started, that's how I found you. I started searching, and I watched your show a couple of times, and I reached out to you, and I've actually reached out to Steve too. There's, most of the stuff I watch is not other lawyers, Nick. No. I just started. Yeah,
I don't watch any other lawyers.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, but
so over the past couple days, I covered this one topic, this MXR YouTube channel. Have you MXR plays or whatever, and MXR mods? Have you seen them at all?
No.
They're these two rather young, very sweet kids. We'll call them. They're not kids. They're over 22. I learned that today. They're over 22 years old. They run a reaction YouTube channel, and they got in an online spat with a video licensing channel called Jukin Media. And basically they would go to Reddit or whatever and find meme videos, or like very short, not necessarily memes, but short video clips, and they would react to them. And which is popular. And if people don't know why reaction videos are popular, it's because you go on Reddit and you find a post with a video with like 10,000 upvotes, and you have a pretty safe test market to know that if you show that video, people will want to watch it.
Absolutely.
It's a hard strategy to figure out, but a couple people on YouTube have done that. They're like, 1 million people have watched this. Maybe if I post it, 1 million more will.
Right.
So they're doing this, and then Jukin is actually, they had set up licensing agreements with the actual owners of the videos, so they put them up on a website, and they're available for like $50 each. But these guys were just wantonly pulling videos off of Reddit, not really knowing necessarily that they came from Jukin, and so they were starting to get copyright issues. And so, but the interesting thing that Jukin was doing, so it's $50 to license these videos, right?
Okay.
But when Jukin sent them an invoice, even though they had no arrangement with them, they just sent him an invoice for $1,500. So, and they're like, well, you got to pay this, or else we'll copy strike you on YouTube. And so then Jukin, who may have a claim to the video, I don't know. I've not watched the specific videos that they're talking about, and I know that reaction videos can be fair use or they cannot be fair use. It's a case-by-case question. But rather than figure out if they had fair use or not, they're like, we're going to copy strike you, and if you don't pay us $1,500 per video.
Yeah.
And that is not the best approach to handling those situations. So then there was like this thing. Well, the reason I bring this up is because I am getting heat in some comments because I disagreed with a couple other lawyers on YouTube. Have you ever heard of a lawyer disagreeing with another lawyer? Does that happen often?
Never, Nick. Never. No. That's it. That's an interesting. That's one other lawyer. You asked me, this Ian Corzine guy.
Oh yeah.
Because when I started making videos, I was worried about the copyright law, and I'm like, okay, and I was reading up on it, and I watched him, and he does some videos on it. There's just so many legal issues that can arise with YouTube and the copyrights, et cetera, et cetera. It seems like a lot of it is undecided, but he seemed pretty up to date on it. That's complicated.
Fair use is one of those. There are a couple subjects like this, but fair use is literally, there are no two cases that are the same, because you're dealing with a creative work, you're dealing with another work that may or may not be creative, and then you're dealing with how much each of those works is worth respectively. You're dealing with the intent of the parties. You're dealing with what actually happens. Like you go in, someone might go into an infringing sort of behavior, not intending for something to like, well, I'm just going to upload this. And then suddenly a million people see it. And it got this widespread thing. And they're like, uh-oh, like I didn't even try to do that, but I did it.
Yeah.
So it's a mess, and the court has to go through it case by case. But I just love that people are online. They're like, well, this person says this, and they're a lawyer too. It's like, I have you ever heard of a lawsuit? That tends to be where two lawyers disagree on either facts or law or both.
Right. And I get that on my channel because I will give a legal opinion or I'll cite some case law, and then sometimes these sovereigns get on my channel and they start arguing with me and posting all, and I'll be like, sometimes I'll tell them, I'll be like, look, it was my opinion that this is a gray area, and they just do not get that at all. It's like, no, this is what the law says. I'm like, all right, man.
They're like in caps, like, he was traveling.
Yes, that for sure. But definitely.
Oh man. Well, I love lawyers on the internet. And I say that with all of the sarcasm I can muster, but I like some. I'm not. I don't want to be rude, but yeah, I won't tell you who though, because I don't want to influence your decisions. You get to navigate those waters all on your own. As long as you think I'm good. Terrible, that's good.
Yeah, I think you're pretty terrible, right? You're pretty. Yeah.
So what are you drinking, man?
I'm just drinking Pepsi.
Just Pepsi? Not a whiskey guy or anything, or?
I do, but I don't drink that often.
Well, wait till you do a little more family law. No, I'm just kidding.
You're right. You're actually right. I have one friend. Family law attorneys never miss a happy hour. Mm-mm. My one friend who does family law, every day she'll be like, happy hour, happy hour, happy hour. I'm like, holy shit.
That's the only...
Yeah.
It's the only happy hour of their entire lives.
Probably. Yeah. I thought the criminal attorneys would be the hardest partiers, but turns out they're just the ones that get into the drugs the most instead of the alcohol. I don't. We had some crazy shit happen in Pittsburgh with criminal defense attorneys. So
a wizened friend once was musing to me about how interesting it is, because a lawyer is the only job where... It's not the only job, but it's one of the few jobs where you can have all sorts of criminal convictions for chronic drug use.
Yes.
You could be the worst meth addict ever. Then you can get out. You can stay sober long enough to go through law school. But I mean, you don't really have to be sober to get through law school. It just might help.
Right.
You stay off the meth long enough to get through law school. You get into practice. And then when they catch you doing all of the horrific drugs, you then just say, well, look, my job is hard and stressful. And they send you other lawyer drug addicts to counsel you.
Yes.
And then they're like, he's good now. and they put him back. They put you back in.
Yeah.
You really you don't get your
absolutely.
license suspended for drug addictions unless you could maybe get it suspended for behavior resulting from a drug addiction.
Sure.
But it'd have to be
Sure.
pretty bad. You'd have to ruin a client's life in some way other than normal lawyers do, and then
Probably.
they'd cycle you back in after like rehabilitation, not rehab, but rehabilitation with another firm. And it's just wild.
Right.
Like it's the best post drug addict career that you could find, I think.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And then you have the attorneys. It's funny. I know this one attorney who drinks every single day. And he could be spotted. Okay, all right. But do you
I'm just
drink
kidding.
in the morning? Do you drink in the morning?
No,
Nick?
no.
That's the question. Okay.
And I actually
He
don't drink every day. That's just the running gag.
Well, okay. Well, he could be spotted at the liquor store downtown by the courthouse in the morning buying little, the little tiny pony bottles. And the funny thing is he's drunk pretty much 24/7, but he's a great lawyer. Like I saw him do a trial, and I was like, wow. I was in the courtroom. I saw him do a trial. I was like, oh, he kicked ass. He won the trial. The other big obstacle with him is getting him to show up on time. But if you get him there and he's there on time, he's really good.
Yeah.
So,
He probably just needs.
It's wild.
You got to wonder if like he needs the lubricant, so to speak, right? Like maybe he just needs a little bit to loosen up, calm the nerves.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the I don't know, maybe you have different war stories. Of course you do, but
Sure.
in one of my early cases, I had this guy, and he's a good dude, but he's a complete pile of garbage. I mean that in the best way, and it was a felony case, and one of the charges was completely bogus, and the other charge was pretty solid, but the felony charge was bogus. The misdemeanor was probably
Okay.
yeah. I mean, the misdemeanor was disturbing the peace sort of thing, and so disorderly conduct. So yeah,
Gotcha.
you're not going to win many disorderly conduct cases because it's so broad.
Right.
But so we got in there, and I'm sitting there waiting, and you guys can't see this because I don't show my legs, but my leg bounces up and down constantly all day. It's probably some form of ADHD or autism or something. My leg just bounces. So I'm sitting there, and he's like, "You're nervous, huh?" I'm like, "No." He's like, yeah, you are. I'm like, I'm going to just go up and say you're guilty, you piece of... but no, like, so I could see that it's that energy. You get, you know what I'm talking about. You're about to go up in front of court.
Absolutely.
And you get that energy. And other public speakers know this too. And
Absolutely.
if you have a good public speaker teacher or instructor, they'll teach you that you take that energy, you channel it into positivity, but it manifests in weird physical ways, usually when you're done. And so, like, after a court hearing, I'll be like a little shaky and jittery, even though, we just won or whatever. Doesn't matter. But it's that energy leaving. And, but God, clients piss me off because that guy was like, he's like, oh, it's just because you're a new attorney. I'm like, you're not even an attorney. You have no idea what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
That guy made me want to drink.
Absolutely. And that's probably the case with this guy. But I don't know, he's been drinking forever. But yeah, it took me, I still get that energy. And the first year or two, oh my God, it's just freaking terrified getting up there. And I'm calmer now, but I still get that nervous energy.
Well,
I know this one.
You're wielding someone's liberty.
Yeah.
It's
especially criminal. Yeah.
Right. If you screw it up, like it's the difference between, it's not typically, in my experience, the difference between guilty and innocent. But it's the difference between going to jail and not going to jail. It's the difference between monitored probation and unmonitored probation. It's those little things which don't sound like a lot, but they have a huge impact on people's lives. I don't know how you guys do it in Pennsylvania, but in Minnesota, if you get a petty drug charge and you're on monitored probation, you can't drink. You can't even have a beer. You can't have any mind-altering or mood-altering substance at all. And then you have random drug testing, which you have the benefit of paying for, even though you're innocent until proven guilty. So for a poor person who might have a meth problem, suddenly they've got to shell out $400 to $600 a month on these random drug tests just to prove that the state, or just to exist when the state hasn't proven them guilty. And if you can, that's what I'm talking about, the difference between getting that and not getting that with a good argument. That's where those mistakes really manifest in tangible ways in people's lives, I think. But
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And the funny thing too, maybe that's why like I can do the thing with the family law is it's almost entirely illogical. Like, again, I'm working on a case where we're in court every 2 weeks and nothing's happening, okay? But the parties want to duke it out. And, I feel like I have to have some perseverance. But after doing enough criminal cases, when I go and do the civil litigation stuff, I'm, like, relaxed. It's just I just don't get as nervous as I do if I'm doing a trial or I have a hearing, because the consequences aren't as high. And I'm not saying, custody, the consequences are great, all right? And even civil litigation, money, a person got hurt. But I agree with you. I mean, the criminal stuff, it's the difference between jail or prison, years of a person's life. You're sitting there negotiating over a couple of years of a person's life. So, I mean, that gets my blood going.
It's funny because the numbers 5 and 6 aren't big, but the difference between 5 years and 6 years is huge.
Yeah,
for someone.
It's huge.
So, what's the if you're able to talk about what's the weirdest criminal or what's the worst criminal case you've had to deal with? What's the most dastardly deed you've had to defend?
I do sex offense cases.
Oh, damn.
Nick, yeah. So I've done since when I first went on my own, I was working with a guy who's been practicing for 25, almost 30 years. And he does everything under the sun. And so I worked on like sex cases with him. And child sex cases, etc., like child porn. So I've worked on those cases. Cases that I've taken myself, I have had some strange ones. I sort of rather not really. I mean, I can kind of get into the facts, but I'd rather not.
Up to you. Up to you.
Yeah, like statutory sexual. Well, I'll just, this is broad, so I think I can put this out here. I had a statutory sex assault case, okay, and usually you're thinking, it's an older guy with a younger girl.
You had a school teacher. I know it. That's great.
Yeah, right. Like an older female and a younger guy. So that case was interesting, and the way it went down was very interesting because even the judge and the prosecutor and everybody involved had this weird reverse psychology because I don't know, you don't want to treat it differently, but maybe you almost do. Because you're like, this guy, well, hey, when I was that age, I don't.
Yeah, because every male in the room who was like, man, if I was hitting the cougars when I was 15, I'd be riding high on life.
Right.
Because you don't realize the damage that it does.
Right, absolutely.
Because as a 15-year-old kid, all you're thinking about is landing the ship, so to speak, or docking the ship.
Sure.
You're not thinking about. You're not conscious of the actual damage that it does to a kid. And I think we as a society, which is the meme as a society or whatever, but as a society, we discount the damage that's done to young boys, particularly because of the desires of young boys, which is the dumbest thing that we do, but we do it all the time.
Absolutely.
I find it really interesting.
I agree. That case, though, it was the judge actually was very conscious of that at the end of the day. So, you know, I thought it did end up being treated like it would have had if it was an older guy and a younger girl. So that one was kind of crazy. Have you ever seen, do you watch Better Call Saul? Or have you watched Better Call Saul?
No, I need to. I have it, but I don't watch much of anything. The only thing my wife and I are watching right now is Game of Thrones for some reason, which I really enjoy. When I say for some reason, that's what we chose to watch. And before that, it was American Horror Story. We watched all of Breaking Bad a couple years ago, so I want to watch Better Call Saul, but I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, there's a character in Better Call Saul. He's not in Breaking Bad. It's actually Saul's brother, and some of the viewers may know this, some of our fans. And he has like this weird disorder. I can't remember what it's called. It's real, where he thinks that all electronics are giving off electromagnetic waves that are like destroying and distorting his brain, and he'll wear like he'll put like aluminum over his body. Like sometimes it gets like he has like these attacks and he's super paranoid, and so he'll cover himself in aluminum, and he has these aluminum shields, and he can't go around certain electronics. Okay. I had a client who I believe was suffering from that, and it was.
I have relatives who suffer from that.
Fair, yeah, right, and it was a minor. His offense was minor, but oh my God, I couldn't talk to him. Like it was so crazy, and there were a couple other things that he said that just blew my mind. He had all these conspiracy theories. So I tell people that was like, it was a minor thing, but that was like the wildest case. Like it made me laugh the most that I've had. So
that guy comes up to you and he says, "All right, Joe, I want to sue the Bluetooth Consortium."
Yeah.
Do you take the case? Is this guy loaded?
If he paid me, Nick, I would. If he paid me, I probably. Right, that's how you get rid of cases that you don't like. You say, well, and I don't charge this much, but you say, well, it's going to be $300 an hour, and I need $4,000 down, and then, okay, all of a sudden they're not calling me anymore.
Yeah.
So you know how that is.
Oh my God, I know someone like that, and he's really nice. But yeah, when he hands the kids like a laptop, he like shuts off the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth and stuff. I'm like, okay, let me just propose a hypothetical to you here. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth go two ways. So it's got a Wi-Fi signal going out, but you're also literally sitting in a Wi-Fi signal right now. Just because you turn it off of the computer doesn't mean that the broadcast from the router isn't happening. That's also occurring. You can't just turn off the electromagnetic radiation we're sitting in constantly. But that's going to save the children.
Right.
So
right. Absolutely. That guy was wild, though.
Oh man, yeah. Do you do domestic violence stuff at all?
I do.
The weirdest domestic violence cases I've had are where the women are the offenders.
Yeah, I've had some of those.
God, those are messy too in odd ways. You learn very quickly that there are two sides to those stories.
Yes.
You never hear them. You never hear them. But it's like there are two sides, and you're like, God, what a mess.
Sure. I don't know how they're handled in Minnesota. It's like particularly where I am in Pittsburgh. The DA, the district, the prosecutors, they don't like to make deals on those. Like, are just that particular office, and it might be everywhere. They're really, and so I've had to take some of those to trial or right up to trial, because my client's like completely innocent sometimes, and that can sometimes be the male or the female, or they just have a really, really great case for self-defense. But yeah, those can be, when those clients come to me, I tell them, I'm like, look, you may think this is something we can just go to the first court hearing and work this out, but that's often not the case. They can be a pain. So
I had one where a guy was charged with beating his significant other. They were not married.
Mm.
And the accuser was the significant other's teenage child. And so big accusation. So I start talking to the guy. Now, who hired me was the significant other.
Okay.
Significant other calls me up and says, hey, I need you to help my boyfriend. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
All right, what's he accused of? Hitting me.
Right.
Oh, well, that's weird. So then I find out, I've
had that too.
Yeah, as the story goes, the significant other was in an argument with the teenager. And the teenager moved like on his mother, and then the guy stepped between them. He didn't, according to the mom, didn't touch the kid, didn't put hands on him, but the kid hit him in the face with a shovel. So the kid takes a garden shovel, just wham, right? Yeah. Just rails this guy. And so we go in, and the prosecutor's like, we're going to take this one all the way. I'm like, I've got a letter from the mom that says that this guy's never, ever laid his hands on her. Not once. And she is not going to help you in your case. She's not going to testify on the state's behalf. He says, I don't even need that. She's a liar. I'm like, buddy, it's your only witness other than the kid, and I'm going to accuse the kid of hitting my client with a shovel and getting in a fight with the mom and all that stuff. And he's like, nope, we're going. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So then I show up for our first hearing on the case, and the kid had confessed that morning. The kid had confessed that he made it all up, and that he had hit the guy, and the guy never touched him, and the kid was taking his plea, and he was gonna go to juvenile detention or whatever because he was still under 18. And so I walk in, I got the biggest grin on my face. I'm like, ha! How about we go ahead and drop these charges? And he says, no, I'm going with it. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're going to mop the floor with you. The kid confessed this morning. I know. And I'm like, you've got no witnesses. Your only witness that you had just confessed to doing what I said. And he's like, well, I'm going to get him off the stand. I'm not going to allow the mom on the stand because she had like a theft charge from 3 years ago. And he's like, we'll get her disqualified for dishonesty. And it's like, you're being an idiot. And he dropped the case after about 20 minutes of me screaming at him. But it was the weirdest thing. I'm like, why are you so committed to this? The guy didn't do it. He didn't do it. Everybody who said he did, the only person who said he did it, just admitted that he was the bad guy. It was so weird.
They get crazy on those domestic violence cases, but that's beyond ridiculous there. I mean, good thing you got it dropped. Yeah,
he was an old defense attorney who now does he now contracts with a local city to do their lower level prosecution. This is a misdemeanor too. It wasn't even felony level battery. It was a misdemeanor domestic. But he was just like, I think it was just his like lawyer instinct was like, I have to fight this. This is my position. Like, buddy, let it go.
Yeah, right. It kicks in.
All right. So what do you make of this? Let's talk. Well, wait. We're going to talk Virginia in a second, but I got a couple chats to read first. Wes Nile Chan says, Nick, please cover the Onision suing Rep Zion and Chris Hansen, the groomer versus the boomer and the coomer. Are you familiar at all with Onision, Rep Zion, or Chris Hansen's the take a seat guy, right? How to Catch a Predator?
Okay, I know who he is.
Yeah.
I'm not...
Okay, Onision and Rep Zion are two YouTubers, and Onision is some accusations have come out where he may have groomed or sexually assaulted minors or something. And Chris Hansen like did a thing on him. So yes, that To Catch a Predator transversed into the internet, or transcended into the internet realm of YouTube, and now he's suing those guys. So that's something to watch. If you're looking to grow a law channel, might I give you some professional advice?
Sure.
Cover this case. Cover it.
Okay.
People will watch.
Okay.
I don't know
Chris Hansen.
Chris Hansen. The guy's name is Onision, Onision, and the other guy's name is Repzion. I do not know much at all about these. I've tried to avoid covering this case because it wasn't a case until recently, but now it's going to be a disaster. So
I did see something about it, but I wasn't that familiar with it.
Yeah,
I will look into it. You can address it without me.
No, I can't. Okay. I don't know anything about it yet. I will cover it. I will cover it. Like my channel artist has been begging me to, well, begging's rude. He's been asking me to cover the Onision stuff, and I'm like, I don't care about this guy. I don't know who he is. I don't care at all. Other people are talking about it. It's fine, but now we're in meme lawsuit territory. So I guess I have to.
Right.
Endless End 2646 says, I tweeted you a story, TMZ, I'm so sorry. A deaf guy is suing Pornhub because they don't have closed captions on all of their videos. I couldn't help but get a chuckle out of it. Do you have any opinions on this one, good sir?
I did. I think that came out today because I saw that. I was just scrolling through the news and I saw that, and I don't know where I saw it. Maybe it was on YouTube. And my question is, what would those captions look like? I guess we know, right? Do we know?
Okay, you know what gets me? Maybe this is rude, but when you're watching closed captioning and it does like brackets and it's like bird noises, I'm like, that doesn't help someone who's never heard bird noises before.
That's true too. Yeah, that's true too.
So would it be like sensual moaning? Well, what the hell does that even sound like to someone?
I feel like it would just be, like you said, in the bracket, it would just be like like in the bracket. I mean, what does he want?
Creaking bed frame.
I bet they pay him money, Nick. I bet they pay him money.
God, what? Yeah, I guess. Are they a public accommodation? Do they have to provide an equal?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question.
What is an equal level of enjoyment from a pornographic video? Right? Because
when you're deaf,
right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because like if you're in a movie theater, they have to do. Well, do they? And movie theaters don't have closed captions, but they tend to have. They have hearing aid headphones sometimes. I don't even know how they would handle this.
Yeah, you're right. It's likely not a public accommodation. I don't know that area of law too well. But yeah, it's funny as hell, though. I'll give it that.
It's a good theory. I commend his lawyer.
Funny. Hey, he got all over the news, right? It's all over the news.
What about have you been following the Girls Do Porn lawsuit and criminal charges or anything like that?
No.
Okay, so there's this. I'll briefly touch on it. It's an interesting case that's kind of developing. They just won. I think it's 20 women just won a combined $12 million judgment from. And don't Google "Let's Do Porn" unless you're in an incognito mode or whatever, or Girls Do Porn.
Okay.
Girls Do Porn. So they won this $20 million judgment $12 million judgment for 20 different women who basically entered into an agreement to do pornographic videos, but on the promise that they were for specific individual clients and would not be uploaded to the internet. And then, of course, these guys took the videos. They're like, yep, upload that to the internet. And now, it's not like they were leaked. I think that would be a different case, is Well, they said they were for individual clients, and then someone else leaked them. The actual guys who filmed the videos then leaked them.
Okay.
And uploaded them to various streaming, streaming sites and stuff like that. But but yeah, so there's that, and then they also the same three guys are facing criminal charges because allegedly they would get girls into a room and then they would propose to them the contract for the pornographic video when they may not have thought that that's what they were there for, and then they wouldn't let them leave until they signed it and performed and stuff like that. So one of them has fled the country, and the other two are in custody.
Yeah, they're probably screwed badly. What's the legal? I guess for the lawsuit itself, that's like an invasion of privacy, defamation,
breach of contract. I would guess too.
That's what I was trying to understand. Is the guy the guys who put it out there are the guys who wrote they signed the contract with as well? That's what I
get from it. Is that these guys drafted the contract and they assured them. Now the question is what's in the language. Well, I guess the question isn't because the girls won. But one of the questions would be what's in the language of the contract, and therefore would they allow parole evidence?
Oof.
I'm sorry, Judge. We're gonna have to parole evidence rule this. They're not allowed to bring in these external factors. We have the four corners of our sex contract locked down here. And I thought, Judge, courts tend to avoid contracts that involve sexual activity. I don't know how they deal with that in contract disputes over pornography.
It's a good point. I don't know. I think you just have to deal with it there. You just have to deal with it to some degree. I don't, right?
It's man, that's a messy one. But yeah, the criminal case seems a little more straightforward. If they did these things, they're done. I mean, they'll go to prison forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they should. If they're forcing people to have sex, I don't care if you pay them afterwards. Like reverse hookering isn't a thing.
Right. It's totally not. That's probably just a litany of charges.
Yeah.
And
I think the smallest one is like a 20-year sentence. So they're toast. 47 Ronin Gaming says, off topic, but riddle me this, Nikki. Why is it when I mess up, it's my problem, but when the government messes up, it's my problem? That's a good question. Man, where I run into that the most is when I deal with environmental stuff. You said you're up in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area?
Yep.
So are you like in Pittsburgh. The urban area, or are you more rural, or?
Pretty urban. I'm right in the suburbs of Pittsburgh.
Do you get a lot of land use stuff or anything like that? I live by a bunch of farms, so that kind of crap is all over the place.
I don't, because I don't advertise for it, and I probably wouldn't take it, Nick. So not really. I do have some friends who I have a good friend who's basically does a real estate firm, and he deals with that all the time, easements, etc. Things like that. Okay. Kind of out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I don't like it, mainly because I hate dealing with the government in any capacity. And it's these little local governments that piss me off, like soil and water conservation districts out here. It's like, oh my God, they have so much power over what you can do with your own land. And it's why? Oh, I built a shed. I had a shed built. I didn't build it. I paid someone to build a shed, and getting this shed approved was a nightmare. I'm like, it's a shed. It's on my property. I'm gonna have some Russian guys come out and put walls up and then throw a roof on it. Like, that's all I want in my life. Why do I have to ask the government's permission to put a shed up on my grass?
Yeah.
But I do. I have to. I have to pay them for the permission too. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I had a friend who called me because I own some real estate, but I don't do real estate law, which I should. But he wanted to, there's an empty lot next to him, and he wanted to lease it from his neighbor because she's not using it and she wants too much to sell it. And he called me, and I said, well, look, man, I was like, you got to look into the zoning. I was like, you can't just turn that into a parking lot. So he looked into the zoning, and there's all, a dozen different requirements. It has to be leveled. It has to be, in order to make it a parking pad, it has to be leveled out from the street. It has to be a certain width. It has to be like surveyed, inspected, da-da-da-da-da. Like he was going to pay her $50 a year so he could just park his car there.
Nope.
And he's worried because somebody on that street will call the city on him if he's doing this, and then they'll come in, oh, it's not zoned properly, blah, blah, blah. So I hear you.
Your cement slab there, that is impacting the water flow. You've diverted a water source away from a tributary to a different tributary. Oh my God, it's just cement.
And one of the most difficult lawsuits I had was, and I do some employment law. I've done some, and anyway, I represent this dude who worked for the post office. And another attorney had told me doing like federal discrimination cases are a huge pain in the ass. Well, this guy, he came to me and he decided to pay me hourly. And he sort of begged me because he couldn't get an attorney, and I gave him a good rate, and I was like, okay. And I just spent months and months litigating with this post office attorney who just did not they just would not budge on anything. And there was all this extra procedural crap. So I have to learn all these new law and everything. And it was just a huge pain in the ass. So yeah, I generally avoid, I do sue the government once in a while, but I try to avoid it.
It's weird. The government has made it exceptionally hard to sue the government. It's like
absolutely.
It's expensive. It's cumbersome. They have special rules, and it's like, wait a minute. If I want to sue the owner of Walgreens, it's easier than suing a county commissioner. The CEO. When I say the owner of Walgreens, I don't mean the owner of that Walgreens. I mean the CEO of Walgreens is easier to sue than a county commissioner pulling in a whopping $28,000 a year of supplemental income.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
It's God, it pisses me off. We can't talk about the government. I'm getting the vapors.
I'm going to hang out for about 10 more minutes. I'm about an hour behind you, and I got to get to bed at some point.
You have like a job or whatever.
Yeah, I don't have too much going on tomorrow, but you're 38. I'm 37. Well, you're on this. I don't know. You stay up late more than I do. I go to bed at like 10 or 10:30.
No, this is me waking up. I have my oatmeal at 3:15 for dinner, and then I go to bed at 3:45 after I take my pills and watch my stories, and then I wake up at 11. And
I got you.
That's my day.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I have a question. So one of the big topics I've covered on the past year, the chat has been asking me to ask you this. The big topic I've been covering over the past year is this lawsuit, the Vic Mignone lawsuit. Have you seen anything about this?
Because I was watching your show, I was trying to dig into it a little bit, but I can't remember. That was a few weeks ago. Brief me real quick, and I can give you my opinion.
Oh boy, where to begin?
Unless that's impossible.
It's tough because I'm going to give you a biased perspective, right? Like I have my opinions on the case, so you have to understand this is coming from me. My personal experience, knowledge, research, and feelings about it. But long story short, you've got a voice actor for 20 years. He's in the, if not the top 10, the top 5 of male voice actors out there. All right, but this is for Japanese animation titles, not American animation. So his name's Vic Mignone. If you watched anime, you've probably at some point run into a role he's done.
I have actually lived in Japan for a time. Maybe at some other time we'd talk about that.
Oh, okay. Well, have you heard of Full Metal Alchemist?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He is the voice of Edward Ulrich.
Okay.
The main guy, for example.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
And it's the same in Brotherhood that was on Netflix or whatever. So, yeah. So anyway, that's to give you an idea who he is.
Okay.
So he gets Me Too'd. He gets Me Too'd on the release of Dragon Ball Broly, or Dragon Ball Super Broly, which came out a year ago today, actually. And he gets, first, this weirdo named Allison Cook tweets that it's time to talk about Funimation's employee, Vic Mignone, a known pedophile. Like, why do you employ a known pedophile? Which is interesting because there's no pedophilia charges, but okay. And it turns out now this is going to be too much detail. I can't do that. I'm going to skip it. We're going with what the story was a year ago.
Okay.
This is retweeted by Mars Girl, who's a YouTube. I can't call her a personality. That would be too much credit. She retweeted that and said, maybe it's time to have a conversation about this guy. Maybe it's time to start a hashtag. I don't know. What about hashtag Kick Vic? Then a investigation gets initiated by Funimation. This is all behind the scenes, but an investigation occurs. Now, at the investigation, I can tell you the extent of the investigation as far as Vic knows, right?
Okay. Yeah.
They asked him, person from Sony who just bought Funimation, Sony calls him on the phone and says, we're going to ask you about these 3 incidents. In one instance, he is alleged to have gone into a co-worker's office at the studio, the Dallas studio in Funimation, and kissed her.
Okay.
And then when she said, stop, he stopped. All right? So that's one instance. Yeah. Whether or not, we don't know what the consent level is according to the investigation. I can tell you from the plaintiff side, from Vic's side, there was consent to the kiss. But who knows? This person is not a party to the suit. This is a third party. So they're investigating the kiss in the office. The next thing they're investigating is that at a convention that was not a Funimation event, just a random anime convention, that Vic brought 2 twins who were of age, back to his hotel room and propositioned them to engage in sexual activity. They said no, and then they left. Okay? And then the third instance is a coworker, a fellow voice actress, where they were sitting at a tables adjacent to each other at a convention, and the voice actress asked Vic if he wanted a jelly bean. He said sure. She pulled out her marker for signing autographs, signed the jelly bean, and gave it to him. He ate the jelly bean. Someone says, aren't you worried about poison or toxic ink? And he says, well, at least now I can say I've eaten, in brackets, female voice actress. So a joke there in front of the crowd. Yeah. And it's important to note that all of these events occurred at least 6 years prior to this investigation.
Jesus. Oh, God.
Okay, so they do that investigation, or they do that phone call. They ask him about those things. 3 days later, he's fired. They produce no investigation report or anything like that. It sits silent for a couple days. People are buzzing about it on Twitter, but there's no official news. And then the jelly bean person tweets, that it happened to her. Okay, very vague, but it happened to her. And then another person says, it happened to me too. He was in the lobby of Funimation, and he grabbed my hair, and he pulled it down, and he whispered something sexual into my ear, which she cannot remember. And then she doesn't remember how she escaped his hair grip, but she assumes it was her shoving him away and saying, get the F off me, or something like that. No corroboration of this story exists from anybody. But this allegedly happened in the lobby of the studio. And then a couple days later, Funimation itself tweets that they have, okay, here's the language of the tweet.
Okay.
We're writing to address the Vic Mignone situation. We have conducted an investigation. We have recast his role in Morose Mononokean and will not be doing further business with Mr. Mignone. Then there was a subsequent tweet that says, Funimation as a policy does not support harassment or abuse of any kind. Okay.
Okay.
So he sues the Jelly Bean lady. He sues the hair pull lady. He sues Funimation as a company. And he sues the Jelly Bean lady's fiance, who has, at this point, tweeted approximately 400 different tweets about him of various levels of some sort of, I'll call them defamatory, although I won't commit to them being legally actionable defamation. But they're definitely denigrating tweets. How's that? Denigrating tweets.
Sure.
And okay, so he sues those four. All of them are in Texas with him. It also turns out that he had booked a convention. So he gets fired from Funimation. He gets fired from another company called Rooster Teeth around the exact same day, basically. And then he also gets canceled from 13 scheduled convention appearances. One of those convention appearances is called Kamea-Con. And the fiance, who I mentioned earlier, has a string of text messages basically stating along the lines of, look, my company, he's a real estate guy, my company is thinking of sponsoring a table at your event for $25,000, right? And then he says, what are you guys doing about the Vic situation? I hope you know that my fiance can't be there if he's going to be there. They're both announced they'd both been announced for months. My fiance can't be there if he's going to be there. And if he's going to be there, I think this sponsorship is off the table. So then that convention cancels him. Okay. So those are the rough facts. Okay. There's a lot more. There's so much more. I bet. But on the surface, I guess the question is, do you think there's a claim there?
For Vic?
Yeah.
For Mignone. Number one, I'm surprised. Is he suing the girl who called him a pedophile?
No. And there, I can tell you a lot. I can tell you lots of reasons why. Okay. But one of the reasons is she's in Japan. Okay. Jurisdictional nightmare. But okay, wait. Are you gonna take a dangerous position here and suggest that calling someone a pedophile on the internet in public is defamatory?
I am.
I am not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You got to be careful with this because there is a group of touched people, and I will call them Law Twitter. You can call them whatever you want. I actually will call them much worse than Law Twitter, but we're in polite company here. They will suggest that is perfectly fine. That is merely name calling and not defamatory, even though the person literally meant engages in sexual activity with minors, right? Like that's what the person means.
I'd file that lawsuit. I'd take my chances on that, Nick. I mean, there's no doubt that that's damaging to your reputation. I mean, one thing here with Vic is it's clear that he suffered damages.
That's exactly, yes.
And so that oftentimes, so I have people come to me who aren't celebrities and they come to me and they say, oh, somebody said this, defamation, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, but what damages have you suffered? Like, you still have your job, you still have you have all your friends. It's like, I can't show business losses, et cetera, et cetera. I think Vic certainly has that here. I feel like
the 13 conventions alone.
Yeah,
his average.
He lost his job.
Yeah, his average convention appearance this year because he still did have convention appearances, and he booked new ones after he brought suit. Oddly enough, it's like some conventions appreciated the fact that he fought back, but after he filed suit, he booked some new conventions, and he ended up averaging, I think, around $8,000 a show. So I mean, you're talking about $100,000.
Yeah, I'm sure at his level.
If you're, that's only the average. So that's including small shows where he's only pulling in 5,000. But some of the larger shows, I mean, he ended up going back to the one convention that canceled him through a negotiation with his counsel and their counsel. They ended up getting him brought back to the show. They threatened to sue for breach of contract. They brought him back to the show. And I think he made something like $38,000 at that show. It was huge show.
Yeah.
So I mean, some of these shows are exceptionally valuable. And
I can imagine.
And so like you said, you're faced with losing $100,000 at a minimum on this on the words of somebody, and he asserts over and over they're not true.
Sure,
but.
The only in these, the jelly bean claim, number one. So you have a kiss that was consented to. Then you have this jelly bean claim, which I mean, if they're gonna, or I don't want to play both sides here, but I mean, pedophiles.
Well, that's the interesting thing.
Not defamatory,
right? Like you mentioned, why didn't he sue the girl who called him a pedophile? The company doing the investigation, presumably as a result of this Twitter firestorm, right? Didn't investigate anything regarding pedophilia at all. Like there's nothing. All of the people involved are of age. The only one happened on workplace property, and I mean, to me, it blows my mind. It's like,
good point.
Okay, so he tried to have sex with someone but failed. He kissed someone.
Yes.
According to him, with consent, which at the early stages of the case, you have to defer to the plaintiff making a prima facie case.
Sure.
So you have to accept their allegation as true for the initial stage, and then you get when you get to discovery and a jury. Hopefully, obviously it's a different thing. And then finally, the jelly bean story is just like, to me that's just like, who cares?
Yeah, that's a joke. It's BS.
And it's not even a dirty joke unless you make it one.
The only claim is him grabbing the hair. The only claim that seems to have any legitimacy, but then that's his word against her word,
right?
And she may have I don't know enough about the case to really look hard at that one. That seems a bit forceful, etc. But
for his part, he says so at deposition. I have all these I have the deposition videos for some of the parties. Mm-hmm. So he was asked about that specific incident at deposition, and he objected to the characterization of pulling her hair. He said he maybe playfully bounced her, like was complimenting her. They were friends. And the story in her pleading is that she walked up, initiated a hug, and then he touched her hair.
Well, then it's total BS.
Right? Thank you.
It's total BS.
Because if someone walks up and initiates physical touch with you, and you return physical touch, like maybe you do touch their hair, but the idea that you grabbed it violently, pulled the person into your chest, whispered something sexual into their ear, like, well, what did he whisper? Like, this is a fact statement. You're making a fact statement about what occurred.
Very relevant. Yeah.
And what did he whisper? Because we have to get a jury to assess whether it was something sexual or not.
Yeah,
that's at least my argument. But anyway, it's a disaster. I have probably 300 hours of video if you're curious. But no, I'll be talking about it a lot tomorrow because today's the 1 year anniversary. So tomorrow I'm going to do a show pretty dedicated to it. But it's a crazy one, man.
Are the lawsuits still pending? Are Vic's lawsuits still pending?
So these were brought in Texas, and they actually lost all of them on an anti-SLAPP motion.
Wow. Okay.
Do you guys have anti-SLAPP in Pennsylvania?
You know, I just started reading about the anti-SLAPP law intended to censor intimidate sounds critical burdening with falsely. Such lawsuits have been made illegal. So they claimed his lawsuit was a SLAPP lawsuit. Is what
which is interesting because
okay, I get it now. Okay.
This is the nature. The Texas anti-SLAPP statute is very strong, and it's interesting because theoretically, a SLAPP lawsuit is designed to stop public participation. He never asked for a restraining order. He never asked for an injunction on their defamatory tweets. He never tried to stop them from talking at all. And when questioned about it, he said, "How can you? It's the internet. You know, you can't stop anybody from talking."
Pennsylvania barely has one.
Yeah,
apparently.
Minnesota doesn't have one. We found ours unconstitutional in violation of your right to a jury.
Okay,
and that's the interesting part of this case. In Texas, all you have to do is make a prima facie showing of each essential element of the claim, and the judge ruled that they didn't. And maybe we could talk about this. Have you ever had a judge with a bad day?
Yeah.
Let me ask you if this would make your.
I've had it.
Would this make your judge have a bad day?
Story, but go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say your judge wants to be on the Texas Court of Appeals.
Okay.
All right? And your judge really, really wants to be on the Texas Court of Appeals. Now, an appeals court judge has just resigned or hopefully died or whatever. That's a joke on the hopefully. They've just resigned or died, and now there's an open slot. And this judge has been gunning for that slot, made his political connections, and he is hoping to be appointed to that position so that he can then run in the next election as the incumbent. Because, as you probably know, incumbent judges win 5% of the time.
Oh, yeah. That's the way to go.
Now, let's say the week of this hearing, that judge found out that not only did he not get appointed the position, but no one even told him he wasn't getting appointed the position.
Wow.
He might have a bad day that day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow.
So
I'd reschedule that.
Yeah. Well,
I'd try. I don't know if we could.
Yeah. But the problem, of course, is not knowing that until after the hearing. But God, what a brutal. But anyway, so it's being appealed right now. They've got probably a couple months till oral argument in front of the appellate court. And I'm very interested to follow it. Obviously, I believed that he had a meritorious claim. I did always say from the start, the way court goes, you can't make any promises. You can think you have the best case in the world, but you got a person at the other end, and some people make mistakes or are stupid or in a bad mood or just see things differently. And so, but we'll see. We'll see.
Later filed $1 million. Here's the thing with his case. I'll say this, and I don't know that much about it, but that's number one. It seems pretty complex. Okay, there's a lot of different facts and moving parts there. It sounds also like he sued several different parties for the whole thing to get thrown out from an anti-SLAPP motion or whatever they're called seems ridiculous to me, because I feel like a good judge might look hard at each individual claim against each individual party. It's hard for me to believe that none of his claims are meritorious. I just can't believe that.
So the tortious interference claim against, if nothing else, against the fiance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll send you these. I have the text messages between him and the convention, and the convention owner signed a declaration stating that not only did the text messages exist, but that this guy called him on the phone, that he explained that he could not cancel Vic because he had a contract which would not allow him to. They urged him to cancel or threatened to breach their contract. He canceled him initially, but when he brought him back, they did breach their contract. So, like, he's got this affidavit that says that I did breach the contract. They called me, they threatened these things, I breached the contract, I renegotiated the contract, and then they followed through on their second attempt to TI him. Like, it's, and the judge is just like, no, I'm just going to ignore that.
How do you toss a breach of contract on an anti-slap motion?
Well, they didn't sue for breach of contract because they got, he didn't sue the convention because when they threatened to sue the convention, they renegotiated a new contract. New material terms.
Okay, I gotcha.
He had to hire security. He got moved to a different location. All of this. He underwent some costs in renegotiating the contract itself. So he did renegotiate it. But because they had come to an amicable conclusion, he didn't actually sue them for breach. But he does have the convention owner with a declaration stating, I breached the contract. I did breach it after following this phone call and their threats.
Should I be surprised that Texas has an anti-slap statute? Like, is it more conservative states that tend to have them?
I don't know. Texas.
I don't know if you researched.
Don't be surprised by Texas having it just because of the heavy preference for tort reform in Texas. Like, if you have medical malpractice, you don't want to be in Texas.
I gotcha.
But it came in the wave of tort reform. It's personally, I go both ways on anti-slap because I'm like, I see the intent, but the function is you get a technical decision to throw out a potentially meritorious claim without giving people a chance to even get, because it halts discovery the second you file the motion.
So
you don't get discovery. You don't get to make any arguments about the case. It's what you got. So it's brutal, man.
I would say, again, not knowing that much about anti-slap laws or this case, I would believe that he has a pretty good chance on appeal. Sounds like something they're going to look hard at.
I think they will. They review him de novo as well, so hopefully they'll get a fresh look. I mean, the interesting thing is all of the tweets and stuff. They're in not only his pleadings, but they're in the opposing counsel's pleadings as well. So it's like they've never denied making statements, that's one of the typical defenses of defamation. I didn't actually say that. I didn't.
Right. Yeah.
Because a lot of times defamation happens person to person because most people don't make defamatory statements online. It's like, I'll call your boss and say that, well, he's diddling the children or whatever. And it's harder to prove that person said that thing. But these are all, they're all on Twitter. They just said it. So, but so the people are urging me to tell you about, there's more drama to this case, and that's, I started a GoFundMe. When I heard about this case, I started a GoFundMe for the guy, and we raised a whole bunch of money. We're up to $271,000.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's been raised for his lawsuit.
Yeah.
This has driven the defendants to literal insanity. Because they have been trying to get the GoFundMe money. Like, they've been trying to convince the judge, in a weird way, trying to convince the judge to award them the GoFundMe money, suggesting that the GoFundMe money, which he had nothing to do with it, by the way. I told him, I said, look, because I had done an initial video on this, and I'm like, okay, a bunch of people have asked me how to help you out. And so I'm starting a GoFundMe, and I'm going to pass the funds along to your lawyer. Okay? I'm going to do that. And he's like, well, I don't know if I want to ask people for money. I said, you're not. I am. I'm going to put it out there, and you won't ever see it. So it's going to go we'll set it up to go to the law firm, and that's that. And I won't touch the money. Will never come to me either, because I certainly don't want anyone else's money in my hands ever. I don't.
Sure.
If money comes to me, I want it to be mine. Period. So I got that set up. Got the GoFundMe set up. He hired a law firm. I directed the funds into that law firm's IOLTA account. So
okay, yeah.
He's never touched a dime of it. I've never touched a dime of it. GoFundMe, I don't know if you know how GoFundMe works, but they don't hold the money. They transfer it like every 24 to 48 hours. So at most, there may be a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s in the account at GoFundMe at any given time, and typically there's not that much. It just gets swept over automatically to the law firm. This has driven them to insanity. They don't know what to do about it. They have spent some guy calculated out based on their billing statements that they had to release for their motion for attorney's fees, that they spent 31 grand talking about or researching me or the GoFundMe itself.
Oh man.
It's nuts, man. It's a weird case.
That is nuts.
I'd suggest looking at it just for the sheer. There's so many lawyers commenting on it because it's on the internet, and it got a lot of attention early on, and I was pretty much the sole legal voice on it for a while, outside of some limited interaction from a couple YouTube guys. But then one of the defendant's friends, or two of the defendant's friends, tagged in a couple guys from Law Twitter. Law Twitter is a hashtag on YouTube, or not YouTube, on Twitter. And I would personally recommend staying away from them. They get involved in a weird groupthink, and they suggest things that I don't believe about their own experience. We'll say. Okay. I'm not the most experienced lawyer on the planet, but I've never misrepresented that level of experience. But these guys, if you listen to them, they're all the greatest attorneys of all time. They all have unified thoughts on it. No one thinks that calling someone a pedophile is defamatory in any sort of way. It's weird, man. I don't get it.
Well, that's pretty incredible what you did with the GoFundMe, though. That's really cool.
I can't take too much credit.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
I appreciate the sentiment, but it's the audience, man. Like, they were his fans, and that's been I think that's what really drives him crazy, is that this is a Me Too thing, right? The whole purpose is it's supposed to be you go out, you make your statement, the whole world cries with you, and then they shut the other person out for the rest of their lives. They're done.
Cancel culture, absolutely.
And it didn't happen here, and that pisses them off.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy.
Is he still, working in the industry and being successful, or
the conventions he goes to are very successful. It's a little harder, I think, to book conventions, mainly because the convention owners themselves have drawn lines, and no one can quantify this, but Funimation has some level of authority over its voice actors going to conventions. So some conventions are afraid to book him, because if they book him, then they don't get access to any Funimation.
Gotcha.
Now, there's no official word on it. If I only had an email of that, oh my God, it would make me happy. But there's no official word on it. But they're Funimation, they're convention owners who are genuinely like, well, if we book him, we have trouble getting other people because the company won't let them come.
Right.
And so, but when he does, he did a signing in a collectible store in LA just on Saturday, and had 700 people show up.
Good for him. Yeah.
So,
Good for him.
And as far as convention goes, 700 people, just to give you an idea, I don't know how familiar you are with the convention industry, but but you're basically paying $20 to $80 a person to buy like a picture of him that's autographed or take a picture with him, stuff like that. You may buy a couple, one for a friend or whatever. So having 700 people is a significant income pull. And when he does do conventions, I mean, he brings in 300, 400, 500 plus people. But, with those, you've got to buy a ticket to the convention and then go buy stuff from him too. So
Gotcha.
It's crazy.
I can say I'm not a fan of the cancel culture, and it looks like if you watch the Democratic debates, like Elizabeth Warren's trying to Me Too Bernie Sanders there a little bit with this "no woman can run for president" thing.
No woman can run for president.
And to me, it's like Bernie. He seems like the most honest person ever. I don't know. He has a high degree of credibility. Even if you're not a fan of Bernie and his politics.
I think my opinion is sic semper tyrannis. So
I gotcha.
I don't trust anybody out there, man. I voted last election. I voted for me with Snowden as my running mate. That's my politics.
Fair enough. Listen, I'm more to the right, but I'm hearing Elizabeth Warren say that Bernie said this, and it's like, who do I believe in this spat? It feels to me like Bernie has more credibility, at least on something like that, than she would.
Elizabeth Warren, who is on record lying about her heritage for the purpose of receiving benefits, might not have as much credibility.
Exactly. But I've had it. I'm pretty much I'm over the whole cancel culture thing. So.
Yeah, me too. Speaking of which, my moderators are cancel culturing an XXX amateur sex videos bot in my chat right now. Don't you cancel culture my amateur sex videos?
Oh, God.
Oh, man. Well, hey, I would be happy to... I know you got to run, and I've kept you longer than you said, which I apologize for, but... I've enjoyed talking to you quite a bit, and I'd love to have you back on the show for anything. If you ever want to chat about a specific legal topic, we can do that.
Absolutely.
But before you peace out, anything you want to say to the audience, you're welcome to do so. Definitely, guys, the links to his 2 channels are in the description, so go check them out. Throw him a subscription, check out his videos, give him some views, all of that stuff. And if you like it, share it, right? Like, that's how we grow.
Absolutely.
But is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate it. I like your show. Thanks for having me on. It's been fun, very informative. I've been watching your show for a couple of weeks here, off and on. I won't always watch full episode, but I'll jump in. And I like what you're doing. I like what you're doing, and I really appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I'd love to come back, too. I thought we were going to talk about the Second Amendment stuff. We can get to that. I'll come back. I'll come back, and we'll talk about it. Yeah, we should,
because Virginia is an absolute disaster. And we got the Governor Northam or whatever is first he put on the shoe polish, and then he said, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I got a long, complicated backstory with blackface, but we're not going to go there today. But and he's like banning guns where you can't ban guns, and I've heard that the reasons he provided for the order actually violate a law specifically designed to prevent this kind of order. Now, I haven't researched that, but it's nuts, man.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I heard you talking about the Heller decision, which because I had, as your audience, maybe some of my audience was asking me to talk about everything that was going on in Virginia. So I was actually reading up on that. Now, I haven't done any episodes on that, but I did read up on it, and I got a bunch of stuff prepared. So I'll come back and we'll talk about it. But again, thank you for having me on. Audience, everybody out there, thank you as well for entertaining me and listening to what I have to say. Sign up for Joe the Lawyer or the Common Sense Academy. The Common Sense Academy channel is a little more specialized. You may be into that stuff. You may not. Check it out. I would say sign up for my Joe the Lawyer, though. I'm going to do more general analysis, probably something closer to what Nick does. So sign up for that one for sure. I'd like to build an audience there. Again, just thank you for your time. Thanks for having me on, Nick. I'd love to come back, talk about Second Amendment.
Yeah, man, we should do that. And I will look you up, or you look me up if you come up with a specific topic, and we'll talk for sure.
Sounds great. Sounds great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. All right. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Okay,
Peace.
you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.